So what did the Fab Four have to do with the Fab Frankenstein? Capitol Records was the Beatles' record company in the US associated with the UK's EMI. But since surfing and drag racing music were still really big in the US and no English group had had any success here, Capitol really didn't believe in the Beatles. They didn't even issue their first 4 singles, which had made them big in the UK. It included She Loves You and also their first album. So that left smaller companies such as VJ to release those records. It wasn't until I Want to Hold Your Hand came out that they were finally on board, but they weren't totally on board. When the Beatles, or any artist for that matter, puts out an album, as they did in the UK, they expect it to go out the same way everywhere, as the artist intends. Capitol didn't see it that way. The Beatles were releasing albums with 13 or 14 songs on them, but Capitol felt that the US standard, so to speak, of 12 songs was enough. Most of the time, only 11 songs were included. Then they would piece together those leftover songs along with other songs onto extra albums, much the same way that Frankenstein did with Body Parts. This infuriated the boys as well as Brian Epstein and George Martin, but there wasn't a thing they could do about it. As a result, there are 12 UK albums and 17 US albums. There's some quibbles about the official numbers. That's close enough. So we got albums like the Beatles' second album, Something New, Beatles' 65, Beatles 6, and Yesterday and Today. Yesterday and Today is considered the most Frankenstein out of all those albums. It had 4 songs from Rubber Soul, 2 songs from Help. It had Day Tripper and We Can Work It Out singles, and worst of all, it had 3 songs from Revolver, which hadn't even been released yet. All 3 of those songs were John songs, and this really pissed him off because this made him look like less of a contributor to Revolver itself when it was released here in the US. He was hot. By the way, this is the original album cover to Yesterday and Today, complete with dolls' heads and butchered meat. Now, Paul said it was their statement against the Vietnam War. Others say it was their statement against Capitol for butchering their albums. In any case, Capitol recalled all the albums due to backlash from retailers and replaced them by putting a sticker with that boring steamer trunk photo. The ones that did get sold are really gold now for collectors. Finally, starting with Sgt. Pepper, all the albums were released in sync because the boys by that time had enough creative control. In Capitol's semi-defense, they did have a lot more of the hit singles on the albums, which is what we are used to getting in the US. But the boys didn't like having people pay twice for songs if they could avoid it. What do you think?